Hey, good morning. This is Ron Lowe, coming with the review of chapter going over 1 Corinthians from the Apostle of the Crucified Lord. Now, first thing I would like to do is really thank the author, Michael Gorman. He's done a wonderful job putting this book together and explaining the text and breaking down the text. And some of the things that I really appreciate was the little maps and pictures that he's put in here that help me to understand where the things taking place and what things might have looked like. As we look at this page on 259, we see here the small shops, people would come in the workshops. So it just helps to paint a picture in my mind of what it might have been like during the time of the Church of Corinth and Paul when he was there preaching. But getting into our text here, the city of Corinth was one that was devastated with a horrible reputation of sexual immorality and sex slavery and idols and worships of other false gods and meat that was presented before false gods, and people partaking of eating of that meat, and there was a lot of division amongst the believers of people that who were really sold out for either Paul, or maybe it was Peter, or maybe it was Apollos who had baptized them. Who were they following? And instead of keeping their focus on Christ, they were following a preacher. And that today has major implications as when churches begin to look after their preacher or their pastor as the one that they follow instead of following Christ. We set ourselves up for divisions and divisions amongst churches. So Paul addresses that in a clear way, and he speaks against that, and so wonderful that he did. He instructs of how we should handle those situations in our lives here. But Gorman really breaks down the city of Corinth and the geographic nature of it, and how it was really set in a great place for not only the trade business that happened there, but also for the gospel to be spread because of where it was, kind of like a piece of land between two seas, and so people would just travel in between there to try to get from one place to another, and it was a highly traveled route, so it was a great place to spread the gospel in it. But because of that, there was a lot of outside influence, and that found its way into the church and caused Paul a lot of trouble. So some of the major concerns for Paul in the church of Corinth was the divisions there with the leadership and who would they would follow, whether it be Paul, Apollos, or Peter, and he also mentions the suing of other believers and why that's an issue and why we shouldn't be doing that and how we should answer that, and the issues of pride and the religious superiority of one over another, and that people would be puffed up, and how that found its way into even into the Lord's Supper, and corrupted the Lord's Supper and took away from its meaning of a remembrance to the Lord Jesus Christ, and it became a gluttonous routine for the elite, or the religious elite, or the wealthy, and so he preaches against that there. And one of the things that he writes here: love does not seek its own welfare or its interest, and that's so wonderful because as we live our lives, we need to look at not seeking after our own priorities, but looking for the priorities of God and His kingdom and others. So Paul struck that right on the nail, and really you got to think about, what is this something I want to do in my life, or is this something that the Lord wants me to do in my life? And so really appreciate Paul writing that, and I appreciate Gorman for adding that into the text here. Paul really calls for the unity of all the believers through the holiness and the humility through love. It's just a wonderful way that he puts it. But he has just a list of issues going on. They have incest within the church. They've got issues with men having sex with prostitutes, and he's got to redefine with the marriage between one man and one woman, and that we're not to have sex with any other people, and he's got to discuss the issues with people fighting over the meat, eating of meat, and whether it be associated with the idols that were being there, and of course, abuse of the Lord's Supper. So Paul definitely had his hands full of issues in the church of Corinth. And in a 5 minute overview of this, I cannot do this chapter any justice. It's a wonderful chapter, and I'm just so grateful that that Gorman has taken the time to write it so that we can really have a good understanding of the book of Corinthians. I thank you very much.